What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Powered by Primus. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys two different deck profile videos in one. Now, a lot of you guys have showed a lot of interest in these blue burn decks, so I'm going to be giving you guys two different versions today, seeing as how these are two lists that I have an absolute blast playing, and I have a really fun time with. Now, for the first deck profile video, we're going to be doing these three here, which are going to be Skywarp, Darkmount, and Flamewar. Get out of here. Alright, so Skywarp is definitely the star of the list, the main point for the list, and in this mode it says once per turn when you flip a card that has no battle icons, so 0 pips, then this gets +3/+3 until end of turn, +3 going to his attack, and then +3 obviously going to his defense, which can be really nice when it comes to flipping this on defense. Then one blank card, which normally would really hurt you on a defense flip, actually turns into a huge positive by giving him +3. Same thing goes for even on an attack flip. We're flipping a lot of blues in the list, so usually the attacks aren't so great, but then if you flip it blank, you get 6 base attack with this character, so that becomes a lot cooler. Now, the next thing about this character is if we flip over to this mode, then we get to return a card that has no battle icons from our scrap pile to our hand. There's obviously quite a bit of targets in the list, which is really fun. I have some 1-ofs, I have some 2-ofs, and it's just based on matchup, really what you're going to be fishing for. So the fact that they're in the scrapyard can be really nice to be able to fish these out, or if you need just that last couple of points of damage, then this is going to be able to get you to that point. Now, the next one is Darkmount. Now, Darkmount is really awesome in the list. I actually didn't think I would enjoy him a whole lot. I thought he was primarily in here just because of this mode's ability, which we'll get to here in just a second. But even this side has turned out to be really nice. Now, he does have 5 base attack, which is really, high for a base level of character. He does have 3 armor, which is really nice. It was one of the big reasons why we put him in the list was because of his armor. But also it says while this is defending against a ranged character, he gets +2 armor till end of turn, which brings his base armor to 5. Now, obviously, we're running a heavy blue list since this is a blue burn deck. Then that just really means that this guy takes very little to 0 damage from your opponent's attack, especially if it's a ranged character. But when we flip to this mode, now he goes to 4 base armor, which is real nice. Again, really pushing that armor. The guy has an insane amount of armor. And then it says when you flip to this mode, you may scrap a card from your hand. And then if you do, you get to do 2 damage to an enemy, which is really nice. We're going to be getting tons of free damage off of this character. This flip alone has won me tons of games. The really nice thing about it is that we have a couple of cards in the list that really help us flip for free, is the best way to put it. And when you do some flips, you can get some really cool interactions between these two, which is a whole lot of fun. The next character is going to be Flamewar. Now, Flamewar is kind of an obvious one. She's 5-star, which is really nice just to be able to put a 5-star character on the list, and then gives obviously everybody tough 1. Again, this is a heavy blue list, so that's really awesome. When you flip to this mode on her, you can give your characters bold 1 until end of turn. Now, this is not really ever relevant, but in the very drastic case you have Skywarp in this mode and you have to go for flipping a blank when it comes to attacking to do just enough damage, let's say, it is not a bad idea to flip her for the turn, obviously giving your characters bold, attacking with this character here, and then hoping you flip a blank pip to give him that +3. We do have some oranges in the list as well, so maybe if you're going for, again, those big attacks, then maybe that is the play to do. Alright, so that's the team. Let's get into the list. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about in the list is the upgrades, and the first upgrade is going to be Enforcement Batons. Now, Enforcement Batons is an orange battle icon card and is a green, so allows us to fish it out if we ever need it. It does say when this is upgraded to put on a character, then we get to scrap an enemy weapon. We don't really have a lot of ways of removing enemy upgrades, so we do have a couple of these in the list as far as removal cards to really make sure that we get to keep our opponent off of anything really bad. Weapons are a huge problem for this listing, is how we're a very defensive list, and we run 2 armors, so no, it's not true. We technically have 5 armors, but we don't run a lot of armors, so a weapon can really wreck our day, especially if it gives them pierce. Then we're in a lot more trouble because we really rely on our blue pips to be able to give us a bunch of defense, and we really have to make sure that Darkmount is taking just the brunt of the damage and that he is very well protected. So this is a really nice card to be able to get rid of any of those. The next three coming in here are going to be Field Communicator. Now, Field Communicator is a fantastic card in the list. Truly love it. It's definitely one of the all-stars. Now, first off, it's a white battle icon, so when it comes to defense, we get to flip 2 more additional cards, which is really nice. It does give us +1 attack on any character, but if you do put this on a specialist, you get to scrap the top card of your deck, and then you may play that card. Now, we end up getting a lot of burn cards off of this, or some blank cards off of this, which is really nice because it's just a free card for the turn. Now, Skywarp does not allow you to stack, which is a little unfortunate. He's not like the Starscream. I really wish that he could stack, but I completely understand why he doesn't. If you were to like Brainstorm, Plasma Burst this guy, we get pretty insane. So I do understand that. Now, he is a specialist as well as Flamewar being a specialist. So we're going to have 2 different specialists in this list that you're going to be able to target with this card and a couple of other cards. So that is really nice, but being able to get free cards is always fantastic. Next one coming as a 3 of is going to be Handheld Blaster. Now, Handheld Blaster is obviously in the list because it is a double blue battle icon card. Just really making sure we push that defense. Amazing card to flip on defense. Next card coming as a 3 of is going to be Multi-Mission Gear. So this is an orange battle icon card. It does give us +1 and it is an armor. So we can put this on any character to give them that +1 armor. That is nice. However, if you do put this on a specialist, you may play an action. So this will give you an additional action for the turn. So if you play this beyond your first turn, obviously, then you can get to play 2 actions. And we have quite a bit of actions on the list and lots of times where it's actually really relevant to play more than 1 action for the turn. So this can be a really nice card. The next one's coming in as a 2 of is going to be Scoundrels Blaster. Now, Scoundrels Blaster, we obviously have 3 Decepticons, and it does give us Pierce 2 against any Autobot, so it is just nice little free damage. Now, if you're not going against an Autobot, well, then obviously it's a lot less good of a card. But it is a blue battle icon, so it really helps us on that defensive side of things, and then it is a green, so we can fish it out. So even if we do go up against an all-Decepticon list, and we do flip it, it's very easy just to let it go if you don't need the card, seeing as how we're not going to be getting the Pierce off of the team like that. The next one coming in as a 2 of is going to be Sparring Gear. Now, this is one of our armors in the list. Now, you may think it's kind of weird that we're not running Reinforced Plating or Evasive Maneuvers because those are blue armors, but the reason why we're running this is because it has a green battle icon. So it is an orange and a green, so it does give us that +1 when it comes to attacking. Not super relevant, but it does have the green battle icon, which allows us to fish it. Now, the biggest reason behind me using this card versus, I said, a blue armor is because I can get it at will. A lot of times, this deck is actually really resilient and doesn't take a lot of damage, but if you're going up against something that's really aggressive, really heavy orange, this is really nice to be able to fish out and put onto your characters to give you the tough 2. Now, even if your opponent does happen to remove it, which has like a 90% chance of it, because it's green, it's going to go into the scrap pile, get shuffled, get flipped again, you're going to be able to fish it back out, which is really important. Whereas all of the other blue armors, you get them, you have to hope they stick, and if they don't, you just have to wait until you draw it again, and that's the really huge disadvantage to it. So this just allows us to have more chances of seeing it. And the last upgrade, which is probably one of the most important, is going to be the Security Console. Now, Security Console is a white battle icon, again, letting us flip 2 more on defense, which is its primary goal with it. However, it says when the upgraded character defends, you get to draw a card and then plan 1. Now, the really nice part is it just gives you some card advantage. If you just need it, you can put it on your Flamewar, you can draw a card, and you're really good, if you especially know you're going to defend against the attack. However, if you do have cards such as these Handheld Blaster in your hand or something else in your hand that you don't really want, but you want to be able to give to that defense to make sure you get it, and you're getting hit by a lot, then it's really nice to be able to put this on top to give you that +2 on the pip side of things. But then the other main reason for it is that we do have this Skywarp. Now, it is very important that you protect this character, so 90% of the time when you are playing this card, especially if it's the only one that you've seen so far, put it onto this character. The cool part about it is that when they go to attack Skywarp, you get to draw a card and then plan a card. Well, it's easy to put a blank battle icon card on top of your deck, so when you flip it, this character now gets +3 armor until end of turn, and then if you happen to flip a blue, now you're looking at 4. If you have Flamewar in the right mode, you have Tough, and you have 5, and then even if you happen to have on one of these armor cards or whatever else, this character is just going to be taking a lot less damage, and it's really important that this character makes it to the late game, seeing as how most of your damage and a lot of your continuous damage is going to be coming from Skywarp. Now, getting into the action side of things, the first thing we're going to have is going to be Plasma Burst. Now, this is a blank battle icon card, perfect for Skywarp, and then this just does 2 damage to an enemy. It's really nice. It's really easy to reoccur with Skywarp, my apologies, with Skywarp to keep getting it back because it is a blank. It is 2 damage, and then again with Darkmount doing 2 damage, we're just going to constantly be poking our opponent. Now, because our list is 24 stars, then we do want to run a Bolt of Lightning arguably one of the best direct damage cards in the game. It is a blank pip, which is really nice for Skywarp, and then it just does 3 damage directly to an enemy. When it does come to flipping Skywarp to be able to fish out direct damage cards, this is the one you're always going to be going for. I know it's kind of obvious, but this one does 2 and this one does 3, so always go for that one. The next one coming as a one-of is going to be Medic. Now, Medic is actually really good in the list. I ended up adding it after a lot of trial and errors with a couple of other one-ofs in the list, but this thing is really nice. If your Skywarp happens to take some early damage, your Darkmount happens to take some early damage for whatever weird amounts of stuff, then being able to play a Medic for the turn, give your +3 to your Skywarp, heal 2 off of either one of them, and be able to fish it back in those really rare situations when you are just facing a lot of pressure and you need that extra bit of health to survive the next turn. This card comes in super clutch. Love it. Next card's coming as a 3-of is going to be Pep Talk. Now, Pep Talk is probably, I don't know, it's not one of the better cards in the deck. It is a blue battle icon, which is really nice for us to flip on defense and does allow us to draw 2. The problem with this is that it's an action. It's really weird, but it's actually slow for the list because we always want to be playing other cards in our turn. It's really weird when you have a Pep Talk and a burn card because then you're like, well, duh, I want to play the burn card, so burn, and then you're like, oh, I never really ever get to playing Pep Talks. So these are a card that I'm considering on changing in the list. Usually I always show you guys different cards you could possibly put in here, but I just really haven't found anything yet that I'm wanting or needing to change it with. It does come in handy every once in a while, and it is really nice mid to late game when you get to restock your hand, especially if you happen to play the multi-mission gear, which allows you to play an extra action for the turn. Then this is really nice to be able to play that, draw 2, and then play a burn card, which is the main reason why it's remained in the list, is that it actually does come in handy every once in a while, but it's not one of your go-to cards. The next one coming in is a 2-of, and one thing that I told you guys we were getting a lot of free flips for is going to be Escape Route. Now, Escape Route is a white and a green battle icon. White's really nice, flipping those extras on defense. Green being able to fish it out, but it allows us to flip a character from bot mode to alt mode. Now, primarily, we're going to be trying to target Darkmount with this card because we want to be flipping Darkmount almost every single turn to be getting that extra damage. Now, once we get like a Bolt of Lightning in the Scrapyard, then we're obviously going to want to be trying to flip Skywarp to be able to pick up those cards. But unless you need something specific, you really are going to be wanting to flip Darkmount every turn. And this is just going to allow us to flip him for free. I've won many games off of these free flips with these characters because my opponent just isn't expecting the 2 extra damage. So it's like, okay, well, flip to bot mode, play this, oh, flip back to this mode, burn you for 2. So really, really nice card. Now coming in as a 3-of and following that train is going to be Rollout. Now Rollout is really, really nice on the list. It's an orange and a blue, so it doesn't hurt either way. We flip it on attack or defense, and then it says you get to flip all of your characters from bot mode to alt mode. Now this is really nice if you have a Darkmount and a Skywarp both in bot mode. You get to flip them both, and then what I would tell you guys to do is you scrap that blank from your hand if you do happen to have a blank from your hand, then you can pick it back up off of Skywarp's flip. Or if you have something better in your scrapyard that you want to pick up with Skywarp, well then obviously chuck like a Handheld Blaster or a Pep Talk or whatever else to be able to get that 2 damage and then fish up the Bolt of Lightning or whatever else with Skywarp. But this is really, really nice to get those extra free flips. The one disadvantage to this, and that I want to make sure you guys are aware of if you do plan on playing this list, is it also does flip Flamewar to her other mode because she's always going to be in her bot mode. So this will take you off of the tough one. So make sure on the turns that you do play it, if you are going to use your normal flip for the turn to put her back into tough mode, which is usually what I do, is flip her back into tough mode and then attack with Darkmount in alt mode because he has 4 armor. It's a really nice way to get back and to start your process again. But just remember that if you do plan on having to, play a blank that turn on top of it, you've played, the multi-mission gear and you want to go in for a Skywarp attack or whatever else, just make sure that you are aware that this will put her back in her alt mode. The next card coming as a 2-of is going to be Vaporized. Now, Vaporized is a blue battle icon card, and like I talked about previously, by not having a lot of ways to remove annoying upgrades on your opponent's side or things that are problematic for you, so this is just going to be another one way to get rid of any of those really annoying weapons or whatever the case may be. The next one coming as a 3-of is going to be Marksmanship. Now, the one thing to note about this card is that Darkmount is our only character while in this mode to have ranged. His other mode is melee, and all of our other characters are specialists and do not have ranged. So you can only play this if you have Darkmount in your tank mode, which is why it's important to try to get these out as early as possible, because if your Darkmount does go down, then they are completely dead cards. The next 3 of coming in is going to be Security Checkpoint. Now, Security Checkpoint, double blue battle icon, but this card is just phenomenal right now. It's just really, really good, and it has definitely won a lot of games for me just by taking out, a couple of key pieces from my opponent's hand, or even just slowing them down long enough for me to be able to do what I need to do and just eventually burn them out. So this card is just absolutely fantastic. And our last card coming in as a 2 of is going to be Bad Attitude. Now, I've been waiting a really long time to play this card because I think it's a really awesome, really fun card, and I think with Skywarp it is just really the perfect combo between the 2 of them. Now, first off, it is a blank, no pips, so it is really nice. For Skywarp, he's able to fish it out as well, but it also says if you began the game with only Decepticons, which obviously we did, it says you get to repair 1 from each of them and then deal 1 damage to each Autobot. So it is really nice. This thing does get that little bit of extra damage, especially if you're going up against like a Superion and you're going to have that burn versus burn matchup. This card actually really helps you a lot in that matchup because that is honestly a really, really tough matchup. So this is an ace card to have and to be able to constantly fish, to constantly be healing your characters and also just dealing damage to Autobots. It's good up against Dinobots and some other stuff like that as well. So this is just a really good card. And now the last thing that I want to talk about with this list, because it is 24 stars, a lot of you guys do like when I give you guys different options and some stuff that you guys can do. And let's say the 1 Bolt of Lightning is not something that you're really wanting to do in this list and you want to take that out. Now that does open a star. Now Skywarp is a really, really nice addition to this deck to be able to fish out and get all of these things. But one character that you can swap him with to go from a 10 star to an 11 star is going to be Blitzwing. Now, Blitzwing is really nice in this list as well. We do have some oranges in the list, so you are actually able to proc his ability quite often, which is really nice. But being able to keep him in this mode and keep him in his Brave mode when you really need him to take a bunch of damage, he really can. He's got quite a health pool, and it just allows your Darkmount to always be flipping every single turn and getting all of those free flips off of stuff to just really make sure you're cranking down tons of damage with Darkmount. So if you want to go with a little more of a spicy character and a little more of a, super rare, obviously, then this is a really nice card to be able, or I'm sorry, really nice character to be able to put into the list. Now, this is our first burn deck. Let's get into our next one. We're going to be talking about runs actually very different than the previous one, but does still rely really heavily on a lot of direct damage just to be able to finish things off, and really has a lot of protection for our big man here, Mr. Optimus Prime, Battlefield Legend. Obviously one of the best characters in the game still, but in this mode, when you do attack, you get to flip battle cards from the top of your deck, and then if you flip a white, you get to flip 2 more, and before your opponent gets to flip, you then get to play an action from amongst those. Now there are quite a bit of actions in this list, and there are some really fun shenanigans that we're going to be able to get into with this team specifically and with this character, but that is what he does in this mode. Now he also comes in with a massive 8 damage off of the base, so anything that you flip, if you happen to do direct damage on top of that, you're going to be getting a lot of damage, and this is where the majority of the power of the deck is going to come from, is from this character, so you are going to want to protect him the absolute most. Now when you flip over into this mode, you get to get an action from your scrap pile and put it back into your hand. Now this is where a lot of the reoccurring damage is going to come from, and also being able to, a lot like Skywarp, be able to really pick the card that you're trying to dig for in whatever situation you're in, which is really, really important, especially in some matches. One card is better than others, so it's really nice to be able to fish out the one you want. The difference between Skywarp and this character obviously is Skywarp is 10 stars. No, I'm just kidding. But Skywarp has to go for blanks, whereas he can go for absolutely any action in your scrap pile. Now the way that we're going to be protecting him is with Tough. Now he does have 3 armor in this mode and 2 armor in this mode, so he already has a decent little armor to start with, but we're going to have here is 2 characters that are going to be getting thrown out far more often, as definitely to receive the brunt of the damage, and then you're going to obviously finish things up with Optimus. Now we're going to be having a Hot Rod here. Hot Rod is for attack. It does have 10 health, 2 base armor, which is really nice, but he comes with built-in Tough 1. Now when Flamewar is in this mode, obviously Flamewar gives all of your characters Tough 1, so now he's going to have Tough 2 just off the start. Now, the other really nice thing about him is that he's always going to remain in this mode throughout the entire game. Now, once he is KO'd, then you're going to have the ability where you can flip him in your KO area. It says when this is in your KO area and you flip to this mode, you get to deal 1 damage to an enemy. Now, the really awesome part is if your opponent happens to KO him early enough, then you can get to flip him continuously in your KO area, because that is a rule. You are allowed to do that. But even flipping just to get the 1 damage late game is really relevant, because sometimes that 1 damage may be enough to KO a character, or maybe you can flip him for the turn, do 1, follow up with a plasma burst or a 1 shall stand, whatever the case may be. It is a really nice thing to be able to get that extra damage from the KO area. And then obviously with Flame War, she's just going to give us that tough 1 that we previously talked about, just really helping us stay alive, be really resilient. This is a heavier orange-blue list, but there is still some orange in the list, so it is nice to give us that tough 1. And then obviously if we flip to this mode, then our characters get bold 1 for the turn. Now, it's usually not that relevant, but it can be nice with this prime because it does allow you to flip 1 more card. So if there is an action that you really have to see during the turn, let's say you have to get a security checkpoint, or else you're just going to lose next turn for whatever reason, the bold can come in handy to be able to attack, possibly flip that card that you really need to get. Whatever the case may be, that is also still an option with the list. Now, getting into the list, it is actually really strange. We have lots of 1-ofs in the list, and the first thing we're going to do is talk about the upgrades. And the first upgrade we're going to talk about is Matrix of Leadership. Now, Matrix of Leadership is an orange and a blue, so it's really nice no matter if we flip it on attack or on defense. We're always getting its benefit from the pip. It says to put on Autobots only, obviously, and it says as long as it's on a leader, we're going to be putting on Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend all the time, and that's going to give them +1 attack, and then it gives all of your other characters +1 and Pierce 1, which can actually be relevant in some situations. So especially if you get into another control match and you're going up against another heavy blue, that Pierce 1 with the direct damage really might be the difference in the game. So it's really nice to have. Plus, it's a utility, so it's not going to mess with any of our weapon slots or our armor slots. It's going to fit really nice onto Optimus. Next card coming in is a 2-of, and talking about weapons, we have Energon Axe. Now, Energon Axe is a blue battle icon. It does give us +3 attack and Pierce 2. Now, we're primarily going to be putting this on our smaller characters, such as Rod and Flamewar, seeing as how they're going to be taking the brunt of the damage. They usually will have damage on them, so this is going to be really nice to put on them. It is totally possible to put it on Optimus. It's just not necessary. The +3 early game is actually really nice, and if you do get that Pierce early, like I said, once you come to the late game, the math on your side becomes a lot easier if your opponent has tons of little damage on them. When you get to that mid to late game, playing those plasma bursts and some of the other direct damage cards we're going to have are going to be far more relevant, and then it's going to be a lot easier to do math knowing which target that you should be going for. Now, the next one coming as a 1-of is going to be Enforcement Batons. Now, this is an orange and a green. The orange is okay if we flip it. It's not really that nice, obviously, on defense, but it is a green, which means allow us to fish it out. It does give us +1. It goes into that weapon slot, and then it does say that when you play it on, when you upgrade a character with it, you get to scrap an enemy weapon. This is just because we are heavy blue, and this can just keep any of those really annoying Energon Axes or whatever a weapon our opponent has that's really hurting us, really beating us down, even flamethrowers or whatever else the case may be, just really getting those cards out of our way and making sure that when we are fighting our opponent, we have the advantage with tough and they do not have an advantage with a weapon. Next one coming in for kind of the same reasons is going to be the Bashing Shield. Now, Bashing Shield is going to be a 1-of as well. I'm going to slide this over this other one. It is going to be an orange and a green as well, so it has the same things as the Enforcement Batons. It is an armor, does give us +1. Sometimes is relevant, especially since we are going for a heavier blue list. That +1 can really make a difference maybe, but also it says when you put this on a character, you get to scrap an enemy armor. Now, the main reason behind this is if your opponent happens to have some type of weird armor that's really holding you back, and you really are about to hit with a big Optimus Prime attack, and you don't want that armor to really stop your attack or really kind of stalemate you, this is just going to be a nice 1-of in the list. And again, with both of these, they're greens. You can choose to fetch them. So if you end up, mid to late game, your opponent doesn't have any armors or isn't running any weapons against you, then you can just let them keep on going through. You don't have to get them out. Next one coming in is a 3-of, and it's going to be an obvious one. It's going to be Handheld Blaster. Now, it is a double blue battle icon card, which is why it is in the deck, because it does help us with the defense. The one thing about it, just to know, is that it does give bold 1, which isn't a bad thing to put on this Optimus Prime, just because you get one more card to see when you do attack with this mode. Now, I recommend that you play a different weapon over playing this, but if it's the only play that you have for the turn, it is not a bad play to do. Next one coming in as a 3 of is going to be Security Console. Now this card is huge. Just like our previous list, this thing really makes a huge difference in the game. It is definitely one of your key cards that you should be trying to get to and play every single game. Now it is a white battle icon, which does allow us to flip 2 more with Prime, which is relevant in this deck, and then flip 2 more on defense, obviously allowing us to get more cards out to be able to help us say survive. And then we do get to draw when the upgraded character is defending, which is really nice. And then that does allow us to plan one as well if we wish. We do have some double blues in the list, so it is nice to be able to put those on top if you absolutely need it. And if you don't need it, then obviously you just get the draw out of it. And that card advantage is going to be really nice, especially if you happen to draw, you know, that burn card or whatever else that you're really trying to get to. It's going to be a really awesome card. Now the next 3 coming in are going to be Reinforced Plating. Now in this list, the tough is really nice. If you can keep your smaller characters alive, if you can keep Flamewar alive and Hot Rod alive until late game, you've probably sealed the game up. You've done so much direct damage between Optimus Prime flips and whatever else, so the longer that they can survive, the better it is. So this is going to be one of those armors that's going to get us there. Now it is a blue battle icon, so it does give us that, and it does give us tough 2. And again, if you put this on Hot Rod, now he has built-in tough 3. And if you have Flamewar in the right mode, now he has tough 4. So it's really difficult if these do stick. Your opponent just really can't get a lot of damage in unless they're doing Pierce. And then we kind of go back to making sure that we blow up those weapons. And then with that, we also have Sparring Gear, same purpose, except this time it's an orange, so it's okay if we do flip it, but it's not, you know, great. And then we do have the green, so it is fishable, which is, like I said in the previous list, really important, because even if your opponent then does have a response for it, then I can just fish it back out. Now, if in the scenario you happen to have both of these in your hand, I always recommend you playing this one first. Now the reason behind that is because if your opponent does have a response, blows this up, you follow the next turn by playing this one, and then now this is back into your scrap pile, will eventually get shuffled back and you'll have a chance to fish it back out. Whereas if you play this one, your opponent responds to it and gets rid of it, now it just becomes a blue pip in the deck, so it's definitely smarter to always play this one first if in the scenario you happen to have both in your hand. Now jumping into our actions, and to kind of follow up with the previous list as well, we have Escape Route, white battle icon, allowing us to flip 2 more with Prime, which is really nice, and then 2 more on defense. It's a green, which means we can fish it, but allows us to flip a character from bot mode to alt mode. Now surprise, surprise, who we're going to be going for, it's going to be Optimus Prime. The really cool thing about this list that's different from the Skywarp list is that once you flip Flamewar to this mode, you're not going to flip her anymore. And you're never going to be flipping this character until he's in your KO area. So we're always going to be flipping Prime every turn to make sure that we're getting those cards back. And then when we attack, we always want to be in this mode. And then the next turn, you flip back into this mode, constantly fishing out actions. The other part that's really nice about the Escape Route is even in those turns where you have to attack in this mode, but you really want to flip for the turn, you play Escape Route, you flip, you pick up an action, and then you flip back to this mode and you are ready to attack. Fantastic card. Now, following those up, we're going to have 3 rollouts. Now, rollouts are going to have a similar thing in this list. It's really nice to be able to flip Optimus Prime, again, to fish out more cards, more actions from your scrap pile, but this also does flip Flamewar into her other mode, so make sure you are aware of that, and make sure that you can get her back into the tough mode, because that tough one is relevant, so make sure that you are flipping Flamewar back after this, or you're doing it at a safe point where you can play this for the turn, you flip Flamewar, flip Optimus, and then attack with Hot Rod, seeing as how he doesn't ever flip, and then you have another turn to be able to do whatever you want. Next card coming as a 1 of is going to be Vaporized. Now this is in the list for the same reasons I talked about the Enforcement Batons and the Bashing Shield. It's just a nice 1 of to have. It's fishable to be able to get back with Optimus Prime in case there's whatever random sticky situation that you're in, because you can't always get those upgrades, and this is, like I said, just is really nice to be able to get off of Optimus if you have to get it, and it just gets rid of any upgrade, so it's just a nice 1 of to have. The next 3 coming in is going to be Espionage. Now this was a surprise card that it did make it into the previous list. It just honestly was kind of slow in that list, and the control aspect of it wasn't really needed. Whereas in this list, if you can happen to get something very specific out of your opponent's hand, like I said, if your smaller characters can make it to late game, you're in a really good spot. And Optimus Prime is clearly going to be your target in this list. Your opponent's always going to be going after them. Whereas in the other list, Darkmount is just as scary as Skywarp, so your opponent opponent kind of has to split their threats, whereas Espionage in this list is really just going to help us protect our Optimus Prime. Now it is a white and a green battle icon card, meaning we get to flip 2 more with Optimus, which is really nice. It's green, which means it's fishable. We're also going to talk about that here in a second. But it says you get to choose a color. Your opponent has to reveal their hand, and then you get to make them scrap a card of the chosen color. Now with this, I always make sure I remind you guys, you cannot choose a card that doesn't have a battle icon. No color is not a color. So make sure you do take that into account. You're not going to be able to get any, if you are going up against a fellow Skywarp, you're not going to be going up against any of those things. You also can't pick I Still Functions or any of those cards as well. Now the one thing to note about this, which was done in a rules roundup a while ago, is that if you attack with this Optimus Prime and you happen to flip an Espionage, now let's say you choose to play the Espionage for the turn, it's fine, you make your opponent scrap a card, but you can still get it back with the green icon that's on it. You can still at the end of combat choose to scrap a card and choose to get it back. So it's really interesting. Now it does make things like this also pretty powerful. You can always choose to, you know, go for the escape route, flip him for the turn, pick up an action, and then get the escape route back. It is playable, and that is doable as well. But like I said, really getting 2 Espionages is super, super powerful, and it's sometimes just enough to cripple your opponent to really, especially after you get to see their hand the first time. The second time, you know exactly what you can go for. You know exactly what color to call, so it can be really, really powerful. Next card coming as a one of is going to be Photon Bomb. Now this card is really amazing with Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend. I've been running it as a one of in almost every list that I run with Optimus. This thing absolutely does insane work. It really, really hurts combiners. It really hurts Superion. It just really hurts everybody. Now in this list, it doesn't hurt us as much because we have tough, so we really don't take that much damage anyway, so putting 2 onto us isn't really that painful, especially when we are getting an insane amount of damage on our opponent. Like let's say we're going up against a Devastator, we're going up against a Superion, you know, we're going to be getting 10 to 12 damage off of those combiner teams. Even if they only have 4 left, you're still getting 8 more damage onto them before they happen to combine, and that 8 damage or 6 damage even is really, really powerful. So like I said, this has been a one of in almost every Prime list, and it's because I can also get it back. So in the crazy scenario, you play this, you happen to flip Optimus Prime, get it back, and the next turn you can play it again. It just can lead to some really, really crazy stuff. Now the next one coming as a 2 of is going to be One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall. Now this card is just always good. It is definitely one of the best direct damage cards in the game. It does do 3 to one of your characters and 3 to one of your opponent's characters. So that is really nice. It does not have a battle icon, which is a little bit unfortunate, but the card is very powerful, so I see why it doesn't. The card is just really good in general. Now a fun thing that you can do with both of these things involves your Hot Rod. Now let's say your Hot Rod only has 2 health left. You know your Hot Rod is, you know, it's tapped down. Your opponent's already going to KO it next turn. It's a really nice thing to do to be able to play the One Shall Stand for the turn, KO your own Hot Rod, KO one of their characters, and then now your Hot Rod is in the KO area, ready to flip and do 1 damage to your opponent, which is super, super awesome. Like I said, it's just a nice little fun thing to be able to do. It doesn't ever hurt if you don't have a valid target, like you don't want to kill your Flamewar with it, and you really don't want to hit your Optimus with it unless you need to. So if this character is about to ready to go down, it is a really easy target to be able to pick for that, and then now you get a benefit from it rather than just getting hurt by it. The next 2 coming in is going to be Brainstorm. Now, Brainstorm is a blue battle icon card, but it is a really, really good card in this list. With the Skywarp list, the card is decent. It does seem some play for some stuff, but in this one, especially when you can get it off of an Optimus Prime attack, and then now you can play the Brainstorm from his ability and play 2 actions from your hand, it can lead to some really crazy stuff and really things that your opponent just isn't ready for, which is really, really nice. Again, though, it is fishable to be able to pick up with this as well as any of these other actions, so it is nice to be able to get if you happen to play or need to play multiple actions in a turn. Next one coming as a 3 of is going to be Security Checkpoint. Now I talked about it in the previous list. Double blue battle icon, fantastic for defense, but it also makes your opponent scrap all their upgrades from their hand, as well as from ourselves. Now you guys did see we do have a decent amount of upgrades in this list. The other list is actually far more resilient to something like a security checkpoint, but this list, it can hurt a little bit. The only thing I do advise you when it comes to this is make sure you guys play your upgrade for the turn that you really do want to play, that you don't want to lose, and then obviously go for this. But again, this card can absolutely cripple some people and some decks, so just really, really nice card to have. Next one coming in as a 2 of is going to be Press the Advantage. Now, Press the Advantage, I'd even run it in a deck that I'm running 1 Autobot. I'll be honest. This card is just so good. Even in the event that your opponent doesn't have Decepticons, your character still gets +2. Now, we do have Hot Rod and Optimus Prime in this list, so that we have 2 really good targets. Now, this is an orange and a green battle icon card, so it is nice to flip on offense. Obviously, it's green, which means it is fishable. That is the part of this card that I think that makes it almost too good, is the fact that it is a green, so that means that you can always constantly get it back when you flip it. And then Prime obviously fishes this thing out as well, so it can lead to some pretty crazy turns. Now, it does say choose one of your Autobots, they get +2 attack, and then if your opponent does have Decepticons, you choose one of them and they get -2 armor until end of turn, which is pretty crazy. Now, this does also take into account your opponent's flips, so even if they have 2 armor, they're just going to lose that 2 armor, and if your opponent does flip a blue, then they get it. However, if your opponent has 1 armor and then flips only 1 blue, this -2 will still take into account, and that does bring your opponent down to 0. Now, you can't go below 0, obviously, so that card is just really nice. Coming in as a 3 of is going to be Marksmanship. Now, we did talk about this card in the previous list. It is a blue battle icon. It does 2 damage to a character in bot mode. Make sure that you guys do remember that. It is not just 2 damage to a character, they have to be in bot mode. So if they are in Combiner, that is Combiner mode. You can't choose that. And some of the other characters, if they're in their alt modes, this does not work. They have to be in bot mode. Difference with this list is that we have Optimus Prime, who while in this mode is ranged, and in both modes with Hot Rod, we have range. So we should always have a target for it. Even late game, we should always have something that will be able to proc this card, which is really nice. And then our last 2 of, we have Plasma Burst. Now, Plasma Burst, kind of obvious. It is a blank as well, which is never really a good thing, especially in a heavy blue list, but because all of our tough, again, we're really going to be flipping tons and tons of cards, so we have lots of chances to flip blues. This just does 2 damage to an enemy directly, and obviously we can get it back with Optimus Prime, or we can play it off of his ability, same thing. You can even choose to play the Marksmanship after you attack with this character and reveal it, because again, he is ranged in this mode, so no matter what, it's just a really nice direct damage card. It does 2, and it is just really awesome. So there you guys have it. There is 2 different heavy blue direct damage, blue burn, whatever you guys want to call it, decks. Completely different characters, completely different decks, but all really revolve around the same thing. So it really can just, you can tune these to your different play style. Now, these decks, like I said, have been super awesome for me. I've had an absolute blast playing them. I'll be showing you guys some more gameplay with these lists on the channel here coming up soon, so I hope that you guys do enjoy. Now, if you guys do enjoy, obviously a like would be greatly appreciated. Make sure if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe so you guys can get access to all of our videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.